Hey there, Erin Bradley here with Pursuing Freedom and Fairway Independent Mortgage. I am super excited to introduce you today to my good friend Kimberly Moorhead with Wanderflower and Company Real Estate. I met Kimberly about a year ago, and from the first time I met her, it was like two peas in a pod. We have very similar philosophies about how to go about building a successful business in your real estate business and mortgage for me, but also just the similar passion to build wealth and passive income through real estate and teach others to do the same. I am really impressed by how quickly Kimberly has not only built a successful business, but her sincere passion for helping others build wealth through real estate. And so I want to dive a little bit into that. But before we do go any further, I just was hoping, Kimberly, tell us a little bit about when you got licensed and why. What made you get into real estate? And then I want to talk a little bit about when you started your own brokerage and kind of what the future looks like for you and your business, because I think a lot of people could learn from you and your journey. So when exactly did you get into real estate, and what prompted the leap of faith there?
It is a leap of faith, right? So I had thought about real estate for many years, and growing up, loving watching HGTV, and have always had a strong affinity for architecture and design, and just really loved that. And so it kind of lingered in the back of my mind for 4 years before I actually said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And at that time, I was working in property management, actually initially as a leasing agent for an apartment complex in Austin, Texas. And I just felt like I wanted something more. In any corporate job, there's typically a ceiling and a level that you can reach, and then that's kind of it. And you're not in control, you're not calling the shots. And I think I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit in my blood, and I come from a family who has started businesses and had something to tag their name on. And I really wanted to do that. So when I got into real estate officially in 2014, I initially was licensed in Texas. Prior to that, I did live in Colorado, and there was just that tug at my heart just to come back. It always felt like home. And upon moving back, it really felt like I never left. So I moved back and transitioned very quickly into property management here while studying to get my real estate license. And it all happened very fast. Within the first, I think, 5 months of being here, I'd taken my test, gotten licensed here, and just started rolling with it. So
let me ask you, when you started in real estate here in Colorado, I know that for a little while you kept your full-time job and then did real estate until you felt that you were at a point that you were willing to give up that steady paycheck. And that's a lot of what we talk about in Pursuing Freedom in general. And what I'm passionate about is just how hard and how scary it is to go 100%
super
commission.
Scary. Yeah.
And if you were, to talk to your former self, would you recommend? Would you go back? Would you do it the same way and kind of moonlighting both? You got to jump right in, right?
You got to jump right in. I mean, juggling both is probably one of the most complicated things I've ever tried to do. For anybody that's working kind of a 9-to-5 job, how do you address in a market like Denver's, how do you address getting to, a showing as soon as it comes on the market, because, things are getting snatched up in less than 24 hours in a lot of cases. And it was extremely difficult. I was working probably 80 hours a week, trying to juggle both, super high stress in both. And I'm sure, as much as I did my best to be the best at both, I'm sure that something suffered along the way. And, I probably wasn't as good as I could have been in certain situations. So yeah, I mean, my former self, I would have said, jump right in.
I think it's good for you to say that, because I do feel like there's a misconception for folks that are not in the real estate industry yet, or maybe they're just getting started, that you can do this part-time or that it's really easy. Right. And it's not. It's all in. It's all or nothing. And even if you jump without a safety net like I did and you go broke in the beginning, it's like you still have to just do it. You've got to jump in and you've got to do whatever it takes, because it takes full-time effort to get full-time results. right?
Right. I mean, if you know that this is a path you want to pursue, you've got to go all in. Otherwise, you know, I feel like maybe I detrimented my growth a little bit initially, where I could have already excelled even farther than where I am now, simply by taking that leap of faith and jumping in sooner. I could have, you know, probably missed out on certain business opportunities and, you know, people that I could have represented that maybe I just didn't have the capacity to do. So yeah, I agree with you.
Something else that you mentioned, which I think would be really interesting for people to hear, is when you moved to Colorado and you were launching your business, how exactly did you go about, because I know you had a very quick rise to success in terms of, you know, units and volume. So what does your lead generation look like? What does prospecting look like for you? And, you know, what advice would you give to somebody who's just getting started?
You know, there's kind of a term that people talk about in real estate. It's like, try everything and throw it at the wall. And I agree. I mean, in the beginning, you've got to figure out what your niche is. You know, is it open houses? Is it cold calling? Is it through friends and family, your sphere? Is it through your full-time job initially, or the job that you left, you know, to jump into this? But you've got to figure out what works for you. You know, to me, cold calling just really felt inauthentic. And to me, this is more of a personal level. I love the personal connections, meeting people like yourself who, when, you know, you just know when you meet a good person, and I want to work with good people. So for me, really, I mean, I enjoy doing open houses. I feel like it's a good place to meet people. I feel like it's a great learning experience, especially if you're just getting started in the industry. Being able to talk to people in those situations it's scary at first. You know, you want to make sure that you're giving accurate data, and you want to sound like you know what you're talking about, and you want to sound professional. But it's easy to kind of get tripped up over yourself. So yeah, I mean, again, finding what's authentic to you. I think for me, I mean, I'm at a point in my business now where most of my business does come from my sphere. So it's sort of my little network from past clients, referring me to their friends and family, and then those people referring me to their friends and family. And so I built a network at this point.
So when you talk about open houses, were they your open houses, or were you doing open houses for other agents?
Other agents, you know, initially getting listings of your own. Obviously in this market, it's a little bit more complex. I mean, it's super fiercely competitive. But that's the beauty of it. I really think that there's a lot of agents out there with the attitude of they want to help the new people sort of kind of get their foot in the door, figure out if this is right for them. And they're at a point in their career where they don't want to spend their weekends doing open houses. They have other plans. So, you know, being able to reach out to other agents, say, hey, would you mind if I hold your new listing open this weekend? I did a lot of that during my first year here in Colorado.
Awesome. And then when you were meeting people at the open houses, were you capturing their information, putting them in a database, and then you started marketing to that database? Or when you say sphere, do you mean that you had a big enough group of friends and family? And then what does that lead generation look like in terms of, you know, I know a lot of people when they're starting out in real estate, they're feeling really awkward about, you know, selling, so to speak, to friends and family. So do you have a schedule that you stick to in terms of when you do your prospecting, and what does that look like? And were you prospecting to a database of people that you were adding from the open houses, or was it like simply friends and family? Like, well, how would you define that sphere that you're talking about now?
It was both. I mean, I didn't have a huge pool of family here or friends really. But through doing the open houses, yes, I was building a database. I was capturing their information, and then putting them on a marketing plan that was pretty lax. I know a lot of people say that you should touch a client 33 times a year. And I feel like that's a little overwhelming. So I sort of do things the way that I feel like I receive data from other people. And when it's overwhelming and daunting, that to me just feels a little salesy, like you said. And I don't want to come off that way. So my system is I touch base with all of my database once a month, whether it be through a blog post and I'm emailing that out in a newsletter, or checking in with, you know, the market around them, running a CMA and saying, hey, did you know that this is where you stand with your home equity. Something of value is what I'm always trying to provide to them. Or if there's something really interesting going on in the market or in their city, new areas being developed, things that they might be interested in knowing about, I really customize it to my database. And I think that there's sort of a greater rate of return, even on kind of a less touch system, so to speak, where it isn't so in their face, but it's specific and pertinent to their life, their home, their ability to build wealth, and things that they'd be interested in.
So I always like to get really into like the nitty gritty, because I feel like we talk about these big picture things, like we send CMAs or we're sending them information about their neighborhood or whatever. And I know that you're a pretty organized person, which, you know, some people, namely myself, I struggle, or I guess I struggle to stick to a system. But once I create a system, I've gotten better over the years at realizing that having a system is the key to my success. And so I've become more structured and more scheduled, I guess, in terms of what I do every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, once a month, once a week, you know, so on. Are you pretty scheduled like that, where you carve out certain times to work on your business, where you know, cut out the distractions, cut out the reactions, and just kind of plug away on whatever project you've committed to for the month? Is that how you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I sort of have like a morning schedule where I stick to, this is what I do every morning. And that is based on my current clients that I'm working with and people who are actively looking or are actively listing. And I kind of do all of my research for those folks every morning for new things that are coming on the market. But then during the month, yes, I do have to carve out specific time. I think your schedule is a little bit more regimented than mine is. I should probably take after you in some capacity, because you have it really structured.
It's taking me 12 years. It's taking me 12 years.
But you do. You have a really good system. But I have certain things that I carve out time to do once a month or twice a month or once a week. But it doesn't, you know, it's hard, right? I mean, my schedule changes at the drop of a hat on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I have, you know, a family who understands that. But I feel like it's good to be structured, but also have some level of flexibility. Otherwise, you might be missing out on an opportunity.
Sure. And where did you get most of your mentoring from? Like, I mean, you went out on your own pretty quickly, which I thought was extremely impressive. So, and I think that's why I look at you as someone that I just admire so much, because I do feel like, you know, you've taken bigger leaps in a shorter period of time than a lot of folks do or would, and you've been successful with it. So, you know, do you think, like you mentioned, coming from an entrepreneurial family or having that, you know, maybe in your blood, was that it? Is just that as soon as you got into real estate, did you have it in your mind that I'm going to go out on my own as fast as I am able to? And then, what kind of coaching and mentoring have you had to create the systems that you've implemented that have been successful for you?
Yeah, so that was the plan all along. When I got into this business, I said, ultimately the goal is to own my own brokerage and be truly my own boss. But I will say, I think I owe a tremendous kudos to Keller Williams, because I started with them, both in Texas and here, and they just have a tremendous pool of resources to utilize and to learn from. I felt that the culture and the community there was just extremely welcoming, and people were so willing to help for new agents. I would say not only was that kind of the basis of the mentorship, but a person that I met through that, I still communicate with and mentor with today. And again, starting there and making friends, which I've got tons of friends in the real estate community. We have since branched off and created our own little groups that we have social media groups through that are areas to plug in for all agents, even agents that are, part of large brokerages. And we meet once a month, and it's sort of like a data dump. Everybody comes with, what are the struggles you're seeing right now with getting offers accepted in multiple offer situations, or what kind of pushback are you hearing on listing appointments? Just anything that anybody has that's been a struggle over the month, and we come and we data dump, and it's enormously helpful, even especially, as being an independent. I think I don't feel alone. I don't feel like I'm a lone wolf out here on my own. I have so many areas that I'm able to plug into and gain mentorship from.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about Wanderflower and the future of your business. So I feel like you have a pretty unique goal in terms of where you'd like to see the company go, but I'm also curious about what you see as the size of the brokerage. What kind of support are you hoping to have in place a year from now? And what does the business look like 5 years from now in your perfect world?
So yeah, kind of to talk a little bit about what sets us apart is we really are a company that is aiming to help people build wealth through real estate. And you said it earlier, people always ask me, so they're like, do you only work with investors? And I'm like, no, it's really not even working with investors at all. I want to work with regular people who are approaching real estate in a different manner, who have sort of an investment mindset, and that's sort of the ideal that they're looking for in buying a home. And the reason I say that is because in a community like Denver's, where and the surrounding area, where you're just constantly, can you pause it for a second? Let go. So yeah, working with regular people who are looking at real estate as another means towards retirement. So, for example, if you are buying a home in kind of the Denver area, something that I'm looking for currently for myself and for other clients are homes that are zoned for a second unit on property. So what that's referred to as is called an ADU, so accessory dwelling unit. What a lot of people are doing and finding super successful is having an accessory dwelling unit, whether it needs to be built or it already exists on the property, that the rental income that they're pulling in from that property is covering the entire cost of their home's mortgage. So essentially they're living for free. They're also building equity during that time, and someone else is paying their mortgage. I mean, I always taught people, can you imagine what you would do with your life and your money if you didn't have a mortgage payment or you didn't have a rent payment? And I think the possibilities are endless. So talking through that with people, and it's not right for everybody. I work with a lot of first-time home buyers that, quite frankly, it just sounds a little bit scary. It sounds like too big of a project. And I love working with those people and helping walk them through that. But investment-minded individuals who are looking to buy sort of in city center and or growing neighborhoods is sort of my focus.
Okay. Well, and we've talked a lot about too, kind of what happened with my husband, Tony, and I, where we bought our first place. We didn't have much money. We were pretty broke, engaged to be married, had no intention of keeping that as a rental property. And then when our 5-month-old, after having our first kid, he was 5 months old, we had decided it was time to move out of this tiny little place and into a slightly bigger home. And we found the home that we wanted to buy before we had even gotten ready to list the house that we were in. So we decided, let's just see what happens. We'll put it on Craigslist and see if we can get a renter. And the rental income on the property we left behind actually matched the mortgage payment on the new house. So right. Even though our mortgage payment was going up by $300 a month, we were offsetting that with rental income from the other house, which actually meant that there was a net zero change in our monthly cash flow because it was covered.
Absolutely.
And when we realized how well that was going, by the time another renter went in there, we were able to charge a higher amount of rent, which meant that now our overhead for our monthly housing was going down. And so it was so much easier than we had anticipated. We always call it the best accident that ever happened to us. So we did it again. When we were pregnant with number 2, we moved into a new home and kept both house number 1 and house number 2 as rentals. And it got to a point over the course of the next decade that the rental income from our 3 rental properties, eventually they became 3 rental properties, that amount of rental income completely canceled out the mortgage payment on our forever home, which I'm sitting in today in the mountains, which is awesome. So I love that you're talking to people about that, because we do the same thing with our mortgage clients is, we talk to them about how long do you see yourself living in the house, because that's going to impact the type of loan that you should have. But then before we just decide on what serves you for the short term, let's have conversations about the possibilities for the long term. And we share the story, that Tony and I have, because it's created such a lifestyle for us that we never would have, well, who knows, right? But we maybe never would have had if we didn't keep the real estate that we originally bought. And so it also feels like a safety net now, because we have, owning 4 properties, we have 4 worker bees that are all appreciating in value simultaneously in this market. So,
and giving you passive income.
Exactly. So it's amazing. What do you see as far as, go ahead.
Oh, well, that's what I think is unique about our approach too, because even when I talk to somebody on a listing appointment, I'm the first one to tell you, if you don't have to sell this home to buy your next home, then don't do it. And I think that that's what sort of sets us apart, because most real estate agents, and I mean, of course, everybody wants the business, and I think it sounds great, but our first goal is to initially see, how is this going to impact you? If you absolutely need the funds from this sale to purchase a larger home, a bigger home, or be in the neighborhood you really, really want to be in, I support you in that. But if you don't have to, and you can choose to keep this as a rental property, why wouldn't I advise them to do that? Why wouldn't I help show this blueprint, this platform that we're trying to build to other people, so that they can then, help create a college fund for their kids, or a vacation fund, or, just a means towards retirement for themselves.
Yeah. And what do you see as far as the size of your brokerage? Like, are you looking to bring on buyer's agents? Are you just looking to bring on operational staff? Where do you see yourself by the end of this year, and where do you see yourself in 5 years in terms of the shape of Wanderflower?
So this year, I think I would, as you well know, you started a business. It takes some time to kind of work out the kinks and feel like your feet are fully underneath you before you start bringing other people on. So our goal for this year is really to get the operational pieces in place. So an assistant, I think, is critical. Someone who can also help with showings would be tremendously helpful for me, because I do feel spread pretty thin between, driving distances. And then next year, my husband and I are going to sit down and talk about bringing on other agents. For this current year, it's not our goal, but ideally in the next 5 years, I would love to have a team of about 5 people. So still pretty small, but that, we all just share a similar mindset, and we all have sort of the same approach towards real estate, and in the way that we want to help people, and truly sticking to that mission of helping others build wealth.
Awesome. Do you guys have brick and mortar headquarters somewhere, or are you currently working from home?
Currently working from home. We do want to have brick and mortar headquarters, but we have so many ideas around what that's going to look like. And first things first, right? So it's not at the top of the list, but it is approaching.
Awesome. So what's the number one goal between now and the end of the year for your team, for you and Wanderflower?
So really our number one goal for us is something, it's related to real estate, but it's also not specifically related to my business. It's related to our long-term plan. Is we're looking to buy a house. So we currently own a townhome that we want to officially convert into a rental. We'd like to buy a house somewhere where we have the ability to build that accessory dwelling unit, and really start initially with some passive income coming in, just to supplement our business. And I think that's sort of step one to us getting to the next level for starting to look at a brick and mortar, and bringing on other team members. Because if I'm going to pull myself away from all the business pieces that I'm currently doing to train or to find the right recruits, having that passive income would certainly help kind of bridge that gap.
Yep, 100%. Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to see where things go with you. I'm really impressed by how much you've already accomplished in such a short amount of time. And I'm excited to be part of this journey with you all in all. So thanks for being on the show. And if there's any parting advice you want to leave with the listeners, anything that you would have done differently, or anything that you wish you'd done, by all means, share any final words or, we can.
There is one thing I wish I would have done differently. Honestly, I wish I would have found this sooner. I think we all kind of are looking for our life passion and what we feel like suits us best as people. And it took till my 30s before I realized, oh my gosh, this is what I'm meant to do. And I just wish I would have done it sooner. So when I see these agents that are in their early 20s and they're just like biting the bullet and jumping in, I always tell them, like, stick with it. It's going to be hard, but you're going to be so much farther ahead of where I am at my age by the time you reach that age. So yeah, take a leap of faith.
100%. Jump in with both feet. Do it. Don't be afraid. Do whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. I appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing what's next.
Yeah, vice versa.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.